addition to pennycress, what other things you're looking at right now that might be viable?
We're investing in a crop called Jatropha, which is a equatorial grown crop. It's very similar to the pennycress, although it grows in a bush, and it was typically used by farmers as cheap fencing because it's a rancid crop, it's a rancid bean, and it kept animals away.
Tonight, the energy entrepreneur, taking biodiesel to the next level. I'm Mike Schneider, and this is Venture. All right, we once again welcome you to Venture, the world of small business and big ideas. And we welcome John Fox to the program. You take a little kitchen grease, some virgin vegetable oil, or even some old animal fat, chickens, cows, pigs, whatever floats your boat, add a drop of alcohol, a dash of catalyst, heat it, mix it, let it settle. If you've set the oven right, the impurity should sink to the bottom, and bingo! Biodiesel rises to the top.
And you can see it's a very nice, clean product. Looks almost like vegetable oil. Can be used right in your automobiles just like this.
And that's what John Fox, president of Innovation Fuels, has been saying for years. His motto, good for you, good for your business, and good for the world. And at $4 a gallon at the pump, it's even competitive. With his plant in Newark, New Jersey, and a new facility set to open on Lake Michigan, Innovation Fuels aims to increase production capacity to more than 5 million barrels by 2010, helping the U.S. take a step towards energy independence. It's currently being used as heating oil and fuel all over the country and across the pond. Now John is even adding a new, greener ingredient to his mixing bowl. It all sounds simple. But with fewer than 3% of passenger vehicles running on diesel and little, if any, major gas station distribution, how long is it going to take before your car will really be going green? And we will put that question directly to John Fox. John, thank you for coming on in.
Thank you for having me.
It's a fascinating story. It's loaded with potential. I guess the question is timeline. How long will it take to get to the point where if I'm driving anywhere between here and Florida or California, I'm more likely than not able to find biodiesel available?
Well, it's actually happening now. Timeline, I think, to get where you're saying, to drive from New York to, say, L.A. on 100% biodiesel, it's probably going to take another 2 to 5 years.
What's the challenge there?
The big challenge is actual production. You know, we've made a small dent into the overall petroleum diesel supply, but we're really only producing at less than 1% of the U.S. total requirements for diesel. Now,
your company, do you refine or produce biodiesel yourselves?
We do.
Do you grow the various components necessary for it yourself, or do you buy them elsewhere?
We usually buy them. I mean, we've started a research and development project that goes all the way back to the dirt, as my COO always says. Mm-hmm. And that's all just research and development. We work with farmers to educate them on crops that they can grow, like the pennycress or camelina. And we also work with other fats providers, like animal fats, so we can use those in our production. All
right, let's back up and take some of those elements individually. First of all, most of us kids grew up with stinkweed. Mm-hmm. Did somebody one day wake up and say, hey, you know what, let's try that? Where does an idea like that come from?
Where it germinates is in our research centers in the United States. You know, I'm a big believer in human ingenuity, mm-hmm. and I think our biggest nut to crack right now as an industry is feedstock. It's 80% of the end cost of our product. So in order to be able to reduce cost ultimately to our consumer, which is what we have to do, we need to find alternatives, and they can't be food-based.
Can't be. So it's stuff that's growing out there that really has no other
value.
Purpose.
Right.
I mean, you got stinkweed. What's that other stuff throughout the South? Kudzu, I guess, that's grown out of control.
Kudzu.
Which is taking over part of, if you drive the interstate highway system, you see it growing on virtually everything in some places. Is that the kind of thing that you'd also be looking at?
Things like that don't or have high oil content. So this is where human ingenuity comes in, is like finding those crops that actually have a very high oil content. Pennycress is one of those.
What threshold? I mean, is there a chemical? I mean, is there a percentage of oil that has to be present in a given plant to make it viable?
It's usually about over 30%.
Over 30%.
Soybean oil generates about 12-15% of oil. And actually, oil was always considered a byproduct of soybean oil, of soybean, the crop.
If you can, in addition to pennycress, what other things you're looking at right now that might be viable?
We're investing in a crop called Jatropha, which is a equatorial grown crop. It's very similar to the pennycress, although it grows in a bush, and it was typically used by farmers as cheap fencing because it's a rancid crop, it's a rancid bean, and it kept animals away.
So the idea ultimately is, as you said, you want to get away from corn, you want to get, or do you? I mean, you want to get away from anything that somebody elsewhere could use for food.
Absolutely. We want to get away from any food-based products and any lands where food can be grown, because we don't want to compete with food. And in addition, we want to find ways in which we can cultivate crops that are giving us much higher yields, much higher potential. That's the one thing I think is really exciting is we have thousands and thousands of years of understanding on how to grow corn, how to grow soybean, how to grow any type of food crop. We have almost as amount of research on how to eradicate a lot of grown crops, like pennycress. Mm-hmm. We need to build a base of knowledge that will allow us to cultivate that and increase the yield. So it's not just 30%.
It's not good enough just to let it grow wild and to be, like have gardeners out there picking it up in trucks and bringing it to you. You need to actually have fields of this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. And you need to take a very commercial agribusiness type approach to this. But you need to grow it in a way that it's not competing with food supply, and it's also not competing with the grounds where food's grown.
Okay, let's take our first break, come back in a couple of moments, and talk about your level of production, the fact that you are now exporting it across the Atlantic, and who's using it, and why we in this country are not using more biodiesel ourselves, or diesel in general.
That's right.
Back with John Fox in a moment. Don't go away. Back once again, John Fox is with us. He heads up Innovation Fuels, and they are big time in the world of biodiesel. You have a facility now that you're shipping out of, a port facility?
We do, yes, in New York Harbor.
In New York Harbor. How long? When did you start operating out of there?
We bought the facility back in October, but it's been operating since 2004. And we upgraded it from 150,000 barrels per year of production to close to 1 million barrels per year.
And so 1 million barrels
of
biodiesel?
Of biodiesel.
Going through there?
Yes.
First of all, where's it going? Right
now, a large majority of it's going into Europe. Europe is far ahead of the United States in terms of the mandates that they have in place and the usage of diesel fuel. We were just talking about that.
Yep. If you go to Europe right now and you, as an American, you rent a car, more than likely you're going to be able to have your hands on a diesel which is going to get phenomenal mileage, and you'll find yourself surrounded by other diesels on the road throughout the UK and continental Europe, but not here in the U.S. Why not?
It all dates back to California Air Resources Board eliminating diesel cars from the light-duty diesel vehicles back in the 70s and 80s. Now, with the clean diesel technology, you've got Mercedes Blue engine. We were talking about the Volkswagen and the Audi engines. Those are cleaner burning engines. Now, just this last September, California introduced those vehicles into the market, and now that's exploding. We're seeing a lot of interest in diesel fuel vehicles. So you're suddenly prepared, it would seem, to take advantage of what could be a boom in diesel vehicles, provided, number one, that the price goes down a bit, because many truckers in this country have complained that the traditional diesel fuels have been more expensive than gasoline. Yeah, you're right. And it has been. It's because, unfortunately, the United States now is short refined diesel capacity. But for us, the benefit for us is biodiesel is the only new refineries coming online. And I was going to ask, and what would you have to do? Well, we have to scale up our refined business, and that's exactly what we're doing, is acquiring other facilities nationwide. Old terminals, just like we did in New York Harbor. We took a Standard Oil terminal that dates back to 1880, and we retrofitted that into a biodiesel facility in Milwaukee. Same thing, right at a port location. Terminal facility that has tank storage, has rail lines, has barge and deep water ships. And you get the capital to do this from where? I understand there's a Credit Suisse deal. Right. Credit Suisse actually led an investment into our company last October. Was that 15? It was $15.5 million. Yeah. And that has not been